Hi, this is Zephaniah, founder of Kingdom Child, and I'm back to bring more information on emotional and experiential language, EEL. And I kind of want to just revisit everything I talked about yesterday. And I'll probably continue talking about those points just because we can kind of unfold and kind of open up more and get a clear understanding on how to connect the dots with all the information. Remember, EEL is an informational tool. So it's two different resources, but they're informational. So they consist of a lot of information. So so yesterday I mentioned how I'm going to go back to my notes to remind me. So I kind of opened up with the idea of how I believe that life is experienced on four different planes. And those planes being time, energy, effort, and awareness. And I believe the foundation of those planes is the conscious, like your consciousness of God, right? So the more conscious you are of God, your creator, the more conscious you're going to become of how you occupy time, energy, effort, and awareness, right? So they all tie in together. I also kind of went over, I did like a demonstration of how our emotions, love, and our feelings kind of function and tie in. And I used this glass jar. Fun fact about me, I love mason jars, typically the smaller ones. So I'm gonna pour out some of the shells that I have in here. And on the first demonstration example, we'll use the shells to represent our emotions, and we will use the glass jar to represent our feelings, right? So our feelings act as a container that contain our emotions, right? So I want to go over some basic emotions. I have 8 basic emotions: anger, fear, anticipation, surprise, joy, sadness, trust, and disgust, right? So any emotion, now these are just an umbrella, right? We know that there's an array of emotions that someone can feel, but I believe our emotions are reflected in our feelings. So imagine you're feeling the emotion of anger, right? So the emotion is in the feeling, and the feeling is in the emotion, right? So the feeling of anger is containing the emotion, but the emotion is what is driving it, right? So that's kind of what produces the feeling, and the feeling produces a thought and attitude, a behavior, an idea, which potentially happens within an experience. So it all kind of ties in, but it's good to have a visual because you know, the whole basis of EEL is to kind of elevate your consciousness, you know, make you aware of how your emotions are functioning so that you can become a better manager of it. And the value, the benefit, the why behind that is, you know, exploring who you are, right? Living in your potential, being able to navigate through life without becoming the collateral, because we're all emotional beings. And a lot of times we are becoming our emotions versus being the expression of it, where we're participating and taking part in what that looks like, because it's aligning with who we are. And there's a discovery process. So knowing who you are happens within discovery, right? So the filter for all of this, right? So it's one thing to understand, okay, I get it. I have emotions. They're contained in my feelings. But now what, right? You know, so we want to know how to engage those emotions, because our emotions, and now this is not just confined to negative emotions. This is emotions in general, positive or negative, feelings, positive or negative, right? So now I'm going to take the same 2 objects and I'm going to create a different scenario, a different demonstration where the shells, these shells are so beautiful. The shells are going to represent love. I think 2 days ago on live, I opened up on the expanded definition of love, where we're no longer confining love to an emotional state, to a feeling, a strong, intense feeling or a low, intense feeling. We are using the biblical definition where we understand that love is an array, Like, God shows us so many different expressions of love in the world through Jesus. And so some of them is love is patient, right? So these shells are now representing the attributes of love, right? So this can be patience, right? So now you have love acting as patience, and you have the emotion of, let's see, let's pick an emotion. Anger. You know, I think we've all experienced the most feeling angry, being angry. Patience is a great way to interact with anger. Now, I'm just giving kind of like examples how love acts as a filter, you know, where when we confine love to an emotional state, a lot of times we find ourselves in situations and circumstances where, in the spirit of emotional language, we want to understand that every experience triggers an emotion, right? And when you don't have the resources to engage your emotions, sometimes, you know, or most times, we're becoming these emotions. And a lot of time, the outcome is we are becoming the collateral. So this is the why. So understanding that love is a filter, and understanding that love goes beyond how you feel. Love is patient, it's kind. You know, it accepts all things. It doesn't rejoice over evil. You have more to work with, right? You have, you know, it's understanding that love has the capacity to engage every emotional state. Love also acts as a container. How do we know that love is a container, right? Well, I believe God created the universe, right? So he's containing the universe, right? He created it, he's able to contain it. So the reason why it's important to understand that love also functions as a container for our feelings is because the idea of that now creates an atmosphere and a safe space within yourself where you're allowed to feel how you feel and process how you feel in a constructive way, right? So we're going to wrap up with going back to the planes. This is where understanding how life experiences are, you know, where you experience life experiences, the whole idea of what I mentioned earlier in the beginning: time, energy, effort, and awareness. So we're trying to tie everything together, right? So knowing how you occupy time, being conscious of time, being conscious of energy, being conscious of your effort, being conscious of what you're aware of. All of this ties into your emotional health, right? So it's the idea of taking personal responsibility and going into your experiences and understanding that they can help to develop you, help you to discover your identity, your purpose, versus being defined by those experiences. Why? Because now we're becoming a steward of our emotions. Why? Because we have the tools, we have love. We understand that we can be contained. Our feelings can be contained in love, which creates a safe space for us to process, right? We also understand that our emotions have a language and they want to be heard. So we can always go in and impact how we feel by addressing, engaging our emotions in love and using it. How does this happen? Now you're conscious. Now you're aware. Most people reduce love to a feeling. And when it doesn't feel good, you know, they don't have any resources. Most people accept how they feel, you know, or I feel anxious, you know, I feel sad, you know, I have anxiety, you know, I'm always excited, you know, just an array of different feelings. I don't really want to make this about just feeling bad, because it's really the idea of just learning and discovering who you are and aligning yourself with that, and knowing what's the most appropriate way to occupy time, energy, effort, and awareness in alignment with who you believe you are, right? So we're gonna pick up tomorrow again, and I'm kind of gonna stay right here because I feel like it's gonna help me to gain more confidence in what I'm saying, just getting the practice. And it's also going to help my audience to kind of connect the dots, because again, EEL is information. It's an informational tool. So I don't want to rush. There's no agenda, but to really share the information. And I really want you all to take it and have something that you can apply. Like the minute you get off of the, the minute you hear something that you can pick up, I really want you to be able to take that and, have it as a resource in your life. So I will see you guys back on live tomorrow. You all have an amazing day. Stay dry. It is wet outside over here in Houston. Take care. Later.